the manual intervention. So for securities that are not eligible for the single stock circuit breaker, so there's not an automated mechanism watching to see if these stocks or these securities have declined or gained by 10% over a small 5-minute window. For securities that don't meet the liquidity test, so they haven't traded 500 times in a day, they don't clear $1.2 million worth of trades in a day. These types of securities have different liquidity, price volatility, and typically it's not something where we can apply the same standard yardstick, if you will, to automatically halt these names. It requires the surveillance officer's judgment as to when to intervene. And the surveillance officer will look at things like, if they see unusual pricing action, if they see unusual volume, if they're noticing news coming out on the wires that seems to point to the issuer having news and questioning whether or not that news has been disseminated in an orderly fashion. For the manual halts for securities that aren't eligible for the single stock circuit breaker, it is the market surveillance officer's judgment that comes into play as to when a stock may be halted, a security may be halted, when intervention may be necessary. Some of the different scenarios where you might see that happen is when there may have been a clearly erroneous trade that happened. It might not have triggered a market threshold. It wasn't a security that was eligible for the single stock circuit breaker, so there was no automated mechanism that prevented that trade from happening. But nonetheless, the market surveillance officer has the judgment and is expected to make the call as to whether or not, if there's a trade that's out of line for whatever reason, whether it's volume based or whether it's the value and the security price, then they may intervene. And they may intervene to either reprice or bust that trade. That's the manual intervention, and most of these other mechanisms have been designed to reduce, if not completely eliminate, that judgment factor. I mean, it's preferable to have certainty for the market wherever possible, and that's why most of these automated mechanisms have been designed. However, there's not the ability to do that in every case. So for the stocks that are not eligible for the single stock circuit breaker, manual intervention is the way that intervention will happen.